Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of Unpublic with Citizen Stewart, where we learn in peace, but some mornings we might have to choose violence. Today might be one of those mornings. I got my friend with me, my homie, Dr. Charles Cole today on the show. I wanted to come back to the topic of what are we teaching our kids that empowers them and helps them be their best and their most successful in life, even as we know that we're sending them into unfair systems and into unfair waters and territory. How can we do two things at once? Walk and chew gum. One, teach our kids the truth about the world that they live in and the systems that they will participate in, and the truth about those systems being unlevel and unfair. And at the same time, embolden them with the confidence that they can win, that they can beat the system, or that they can beat what the system has in store for them. Let's just put it that way. So this, at the end of last week, this had me thinking about Charles, thinking about you specifically, man, because you have this focus that you have been presenting in public around agency. And I think that there's a lot of power in agency. And I wanted to talk about it, number one, from how is the power of teaching young people about their agency, how is that different from what other people might be telling them in terms of like the pull up your bootstraps, just have grit, just like, tough it out, don't blame the system, all that type of stuff. So why don't we just start with the concept of your concept of how you are framing agency and agentic behavior for young people?
Absolutely. I mean, first, agent, just so people, because a lot of people don't know what that term is. And so they hear it, but they're like, what does that mean, right? Agency is the capacity of individuals just to make independent and free choices, right? Like that's in the most general, like, thought of it, right? Academic agency is to take that same concept and young people are partnering in like their journey around academics, right? So it's like they know what quality is, they know when they're not getting it, and they know how to advocate for themselves in doing that. Now let's add a new wrinkle to that. Let's add black agency on that piece. And I call this just being on code. And what that means is that your kids know that they're going to a school that's in an unfair system, that's in a system that may not necessarily have done the best job by them, but they know why they are there. They know what they need to get from that space. It also, I want to be very clear what it does not mean too, Chris. It's not an excuse to let systems off the hook. It is not a thing to say, hey, look the other way. Let's just raise agentic kids and we don't have to worry about the system, because every car only got so much gas, but there's a lot of road. There's always more road than there is gas in the car. So you still have to fix the road conditions, but at least you know what I'm saying, what you riding on. Think about it as like, without agency, you on a Miata. With agency, you're going over a rough terrain with puddles and snow and all this stuff, but now you're in a Hummer. That's bulletproof. You know what I'm saying? You still need gas. The road still needs to get fixed. This is not a long, to fix everything, right? It's not that you still have to fix the social conditions of things. And the reason why I wanted to emphasize that, Chris, is because people will take this stuff and it's easy to twist and turn it into a propaganda tool. And what's going to happen is that organizations that are tired of hearing about Black people, that are tired of hearing about the CRT stuff, that are tired of all this stuff and the woke wars, and this is the funny thing, how I feel about that woke stuff, over woke. You know what I mean? You know how I feel about it, right? Yep. And at the same time, we both know that that things are racist. It's okay to say things are racist. And if you're raising a kid on code, they know it's racist. If you and in my research, Chris, there was one of these studies by this brother Combe, and I know I'm being long-winded, but it's just really important. There was in this school, it was this group of Black girls from the Nation of Islam, and they were in this school, and they had just this super counter narrative. They didn't like the school. The school probably didn't necessarily like them. They questioned every single history lesson, but guess what? Those girls also left that school with the highest grades out of everybody else, because they knew that they got their real history from their people, from mosques, from all these other places, but they knew that the school thing was just a key to get them into another door that they were trying to pass through in life. And that's the difference. It's not saying that just because these kids got these A's or did good, that your system is good. It's saying that they just had a Hummer for your jacked up ass road. But those kids were still committed to social justice and social change and calling that stuff out along the way. So I know I just said a mouthful, man, but
no, that's helpful. Like in terms of framing, like why would we even need to talk about this right now? We need to talk about it specifically because we have to teach our young people the things that are going to help them win. And at the same time, we have to protect them against nefarious narratives that people are going to like. The devil will step up to you and offer you a piece of cake that looks like cake and isn't really cake, right? Like you bite into it and they use salt instead of sugar in it or something like that, something crazy. It's a weird analogy, but it's just basically to say sometimes these concepts are taken and twisted in ways that aren't helpful to us. And what we are trying to do is raise young people that win. So when I think about your work and what you're teaching, and you're teaching young people, like for instance, getting young people engaged in the data projects that you have done in these different cities, and then seeing them go from thinking I'm not really a researcher to feeling like they're actually a researcher because you've engaged them in the work, like in statistics or whatnot. What is the lesson to be learned about that transformation when they go from I'm not really a researcher to coming out the other end feeling like, nah, I got this. I can do research. What are the lessons to be learned that can be applied to other young people?
Absolutely, man. Push it out in multiples, Chris. What they did, it's not that all these kids are going to leave now and say, I want to be a researcher. But what it did is it awakened them that there's another world out there that they probably haven't even tried to tap into. And it wasn't just the fact that them saying that they could do it, but it was saying how they could do it and applying it to their life. And so these young people were like, these numbers, they talk about us, they do whatever. But when they became a participant, when they became a driver in it and not just a passenger, they were like, oh my. So all those kids are now asking different questions of their school system, of those classrooms, of their friends. And just, it's just saying like, yo, this system is super jacked up. This is wild. But maybe we're asking the wrong question, or maybe we're focusing on the wrong thing.
So let me just ask you about that real quick. So you had them engaging in a real world problem and they themselves looked at some information, some data. Absolutely. Let's just call it information, right? So this is a point where you might differ from someone else on that same situation, right? Some people that love to preach agency would say by engaging them in this data around their social standing and the way that systems work, you're just preaching to them that everything's broken and they're against the 8 ball and you can't win and, everything's stacked, the deck's stacked against you, instead of saying to them, just do your best or whatnot. What would you say to the people that say, like, by engaging them in that information and that data, you might be teaching them some defeatist things, like the system's all broken?
Well, I would laugh because if anybody that knows me knows that I don't ever have a defeatist. I think I can do anything. That's why I do so many things. The other thing I would say is I would say that you are a liar from the devil and an agent of hell if you think it's a problem to tell kids the truth. And we didn't just engage them in usable information, Chris. We engage them in information that directly affects or critiques them. So it's saying like, these numbers say what we expect you all to do based off all this other information. And it's different when you just say X% of Black kids graduate to this, how many people in your class about to graduate. And when they do graduate, this is what's going to happen with them. Like agentic kids on code, people on code, they don't fall for okie dokes. They don't fall for, well, what about Black on Black crime? Well, we get upset because everything I do every single day is to help my people. You don't think I'm aware? I got security all around my house. You know what I'm saying? I know where I live. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean that like that racism don't still exist. That don't absolve systems from being racist to people. Like we can know multiple things. I've been jacked up by the police before and had guns put on me by the police. And guess what, man? I done been in the area when there's some people that look like me done had some guns and some not so good things have gone on. Like I can handle multiple things. And so I think that concept, Chris, is a propaganda tool So to just kind of say, don't look over here, don't look at this, right? Focus on this over here. And when you raise kids on code, they can see through that.
Yeah, you know, it almost feels like conservative world. So if you were to take like agentic or agency and pull it through a conservative lens, a moderate lens, a more progressive lens, you would be taking the same concept through 3 different lenses, and you might come out with some different outcomes. I can guarantee you through the conservative lens, what they want you to do is focus on work. So like, just work hard, just do your job, just show up and work and do your job and work. What a centrist or progressive lens might do is think, you know thyself, right? Like that is in every religion. That is in every cultural background. Know thyself, whatever. Or so goes your mind, so goes your life, right? That's another proverb from almost every religion, right? Like your mind. So that might be the difference here. Agency for one group of people is pull yourself up by the bootstraps, work hard, whatever. And listen, you do it all the time. You talk about like your grind, you know, working hard, whatever. You're never going to outwork me. So nobody's talking against that. But if you can't think, critically about the systems that you're in, whatnot, agency is just going to be uninformed actions.
Right.
Your agency is just going to be uninformed actions, right? So I love what you're doing with the young people by engaging them in the data that makes sense to their lives, first of all, because they got to deconstruct some stuff and decode. If
well,
you
Chris,
were talking,
I am going to interrupt you, but because it's an important point of what you said. And if you read the book, and I do talk about grinding and all that stuff a lot, and I also say if you get to the end of the book, right, that also creates residue, that also creates undue harm on yourself if you don't got the other things fixed, right? So again, even in that, we were talking about making sure kids don't leave your school broken because they got to just do these things or whatever. I don't work like this. I mean, I enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? I like doing it, but these are the circumstances that I kind of grew up in, and we're trying to make it so kids after us don't have to be the way that I am. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to do that. And I just wanted to say that part, Chris, because there is an other side of that. Those 3 subjects in my book, we looked at Black men, grew up during the crack epidemic that went on to become very successful. All 3 of those men in their 30s and 40s, they almost lost their wives. They dealt with some type of depression. They had to decompress and deconstruct all of that stuff that happened. So there has to be a healthy way that these things do it. And the book was a warning to say, hey, we're not raising gritty kids where you just work, do whatever. We're raising agentic kids that are taking care of themselves along the process, getting the help that they need. Agentic kids know that therapy can help you. Agentic kids know that you got to take a break sometimes. And agentic kids know that there is a village that you are enveloped in that you need to survive and thrive. So your personal endeavors, you're not out there by yourself.
I just heard like a Lil Jon song. I just heard like turn up for what? Like as you were talking, I was like thinking to myself, like agency for what? Like agentic for what? Because you can be agentic for good or evil.
Absolutely.
You could be good. You could be agentic to be continuous being a slave if you want. When you just talked about residue, I thought to myself, okay, so they told you your whole life, work hard, do your best, blah, blah, get an education, all that. You studied Black men who had did that against the odds and came out the other side with all the trappings of what success was supposed to look like, and still had probably had to confront the idea that maybe there's an unhealthy way to work hard, right? That taxes your ass. And maybe shortens your life, right? Even though you got all the trappings of like success, you got a car now, you got a house, you got a job, you got the wife, you got the kids, you got the whole thing, you know, and by the outward appearances, oh, you made it. No, kinda. You working 70 hours a week, or you're doing some unhealthy thing and you're doing it for other people, and you know, all of that. So that's agency. Yeah. But that's conservative agency. That's agency where they want you to work yourself to death in pursuit of things that maybe not even be for you.
Let's not call it agency. Let's call that John Henry grit, where you just remember the story of John Henry. It's so funny. They don't want to teach you CRT, but the Black person I learned about as a kid was John Henry, the steel driving man. Remember this cat?
I remember this so bad because I remember.
But the people out there that probably didn't get this, right? John Henry was the strong Black man, basically a buck. He was like and he could just He was just on the railroads by himself, and then they had a machine come that was supposed to make him obsolete. And John Henry was gonna beat that machine, and he was gonna beat it, and then his heart exploded in the middle of fighting this thing. Right? It's so I learned that in like the second grade, Chris. We can't hear about stuff that's like germane to us as a history. But I can hear about the steel driving man that kills himself. But that's what they want you to be, right? They want you to not worry about their system, be a good boy, and then work yourself to death. You know what I'm saying? What you said, me and those kids were not agentic kids. We were John Steele, we were John Henry steel driving men's kids. You know what I mean? Basically. And what the book was saying is no, it looks a little different when you are agentic, because agentic kids are healthy. Like agentic kids, think of it like this, Chris. Let's operationalize it, because you know how I feel about PhDs that make things more difficult. 3 things: A&D, awareness, navigation, and duty. This is the framework. 1A, awareness. Are you aware of the systems? Are you aware of the trappings? Are you aware of the consequences? Right? Like, do you have some knowledge? Whether it's self-help or whatever the case is, do you have that? Navigation parts, this is what those other people do. They'll steal it, and then they'll only focus on the navigation part, right? Navigation is important. What navigation says is, I'm aware that this system is broken, but I still have a responsibility to get through it. I still have to live my life, but I need to know the trappings and what's along the way, right? I'm in my Hummer on this messed up road, and the navigation is the GPS system. But this is the difference. This is why you aren't an agentic villain, right? This is why you aren't an agentic, like, crazy pseudo, like, I'm about to take over and do all this stuff, right? Hitler's not agentic, right? Because the last part is duty. Duty to whom? Duty to my community, duty to this planet, duty to, my family, right? The duty piece is the thing that brings it back. This is what you have to bring up when these crackpots start coming. They're going to find some black faces and some brown faces, and they're going to be the only black and brown faces in that room, and they're going to tell you just that one part, right? Like, well, work hard. Well, yeah, working hard is important, but where's your duty piece? And if you are agentic and you are self-conscious and aware, you should be able to look around the room and say, you know what? I'm the only black person in this room. Also, a whole bunch of white male faces around me, and they tend to always be fighting some black people.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the difference.
That. Now you got to first of all, this John Henry analogy, you got to write that. That's got to be a blog post.
That's John Henry grit, baby.
You know what? John Henry, like I just pulled up the story too, and we just looked at it a second ago. That is the model for which the conservative agency focus is. They want you to be monomaniacal about work, and hopefully for somebody else. And to work yourself to death until your heart explodes or until your I remember the reason I think that's such a great analogy is I can remember being a kid reading that. First of all, it's funny that in my generation, in your generation, whatnot, this story has persisted. But I can remember thinking, this ain't a good story.
Right.
I remember thinking, I don't want to be him. This sounds terrible. He's about to die. Like, right. I was one of the people who could see it coming. Like, bro, take a break. You need some old time lemonade. Sit down. What's wrong?
Let's be clear, Chris. And this is where we build kids on code, right? Because you're gonna have this conversation with your kids. He didn't die like Jesus for people, like for humanity, right? He didn't die for like his family, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? For like his tribe. Yeah. He died to prove to these white folks that he could beat a fucking machine. Like, he died for nothing. He died for nothing.
Which is someone else's vision of us.
Exactly.
Someone really wants us to be big, black, muscular, working day to night, nonstop, without asking any questions, like a machine, sweating ourselves, and then die. Like when you do all that and then die, that's like someone else's like dream scenario for our lives and for our people. I mean, you get to write this up, man.
I mean, it's because it's the truth, man, and that's how I look at it, right? It's just when you think about it in that way, yo, it's like you're going to see and listen, and my heart goes out to John Henry, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's a folktale, right? So it's supposed to have happened, and I understand the context. Right.
Rich folk.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Like,
mm-mm.
I mean, this story had a very different ending than the Johnny Appleseed story, right? Or Davy Crockett. You know what I'm saying? Them white folks got to like live in infamy, or somebody made all the apple trees or whatever. Like, this Negro just died. You just dead. you just dead for no reason.
Do you know the real story of Johnny Appleseed?
I do, and it's a lot more complicated, and a lot other shit happened. Yeah, but that's not the story they tell kids.
No, but even the story even the actual biographical story of Johnny Appleseed, as I remember it, had agency involved in it, and had entrepreneurial. Johnny Appleseed figured out that when they were giving white men land for free, that there was a law within that land with the westward expansion that required you to plant a certain number of apple trees as part of getting the land, because they wanted to develop agriculture, and they wanted the land. There was something about adding apple trees to the land that made it more valuable and whatnot. So he went upstream and realized there's going to be all these men getting free land that requires them to plant apple seeds. So he became an apple seed salesman. He figured out how to create great apple seeds and to get them to people quickly or whatnot. And that's Johnny Appleseed. Now that's agency, entrepreneurialism or whatnot. This is better than John Henry's story. This is better than the John Henry story. Because you know what? Because Johnny Appleseed was going to profit off of his labor.
Not just whatever came after Johnny was going to profit, right? Like Johnny's tree was going, like, he wasn't just planting for one tree; he was planting for his family tree. And this is what. But the reason why I'm saying it like this, because there are going to be people that's going to come and sell you the John Henry story, because in their mind they want to be John Henry, and they're going to use a black face. Listen, man, power never concedes itself. Like, these people are smart. Empires know how to sustain themselves. So that's why when Hannah Nicole Jones, and whatever, and we have our issues on certain things. I don't love every single part of that piece, but certain things are just racist. So they're like, okay, we're going to flip this on his head, and we're going to make legislation to ban this context of being able to tell history. And that's what's going to happen with agency, right? It's something that does not belong to a political party. And they're going to take it and they're going to flip it and put a lot of money and a lot of resources around it. And they're going to leave out the duty part. They're going to leave out the tribal part. They're going to leave out the part for doing for your family tree and all of that stuff and for your people. And that's what's going to happen, man. And so we just have to be prepared. But a kid on code can see through that. Hey, man, can this black dude that's up here talking about this thing, can he walk in my neighborhood? Would he even talk to me? Am I his people? Does he consider me to be part of his tribe? Then maybe that ain't the person that I want to be listening to. Discernment is something that comes with agency. Agency has discernment, meaning that it doesn't belong to a party. That means I can look at a situation, I can gather facts, I can see what's going on with my people and what's best for myself, and make a decision. And maybe that decision will end up being on the progressive side, or maybe it'll end up being on a more conservative side on a case-by-case basis. Don't make me denounce one gang that's in the streets to join another gang. Like, don't let these people steal agency for gang talk.
Wow. I actually think that's really deep. I mean, damn. So when we think about the pitch that's going to be made to our young people around agency or whatnot, I think you've just clarified, and we have already clarified, that agency can be agency in some ways can be neutral, not always, but it can be neutral. It could be used for good, or it could be for evil. It could work you to death, or it could actually work you into your dream. And I love this piece that you just added, which is one side loves to tell you, think like an individual, don't be part of a group, whatever. I'm a libertarian. That's part of the libertarian theology, is we're all individuals. We're not part of a group or whatnot. But this is what's funny, is if you do think in collectivist ways, I need to uplift my family and community. I need to do the work that I do for my community. Like when you wrote your dissertation, I need to write this to my community, not to you, the institution. When you think like that, you're thinking collectively, because it's smart to do so, and to teach our young people to think about beyond themselves, beyond their individual status. But what the other side does is real clever. They like to be individuals. Oh, we're all American individuals, until they vote. And until it comes to something like CRT or whatnot. And then all of a sudden they have a whole bunch of group identity all of a sudden. right? When it comes to passing laws, their group identity is pretty strong. So what they have is a phony individualism with some real strong collectivism. And what we have is phony collectivism with some real strong individualism. And we need to flip that, because honestly, there's too many of us, just be very real, who aren't thinking about the tribe. Who aren't thinking about the community. They are thinking about, like, I got to get mine, you got to get yours. You and I talked about this before, the MC Breed thing. I got to get mine, you got to get yours. Was an 80s anthem,
right?
80s, 90s, maybe 90s anthem, right? And that's a hip hop idea of, like, look, I got to step over you and get my bag. I got to, like, get mine, you got to get yours. What you just said is very different. You said agency isn't just for self. Agency comes with some duty.
It's duty. Exactly. Stuff. It's the duty piece. And this is what I want y'all to do. When these people come, ask them, well, what's your duty? Who is your duty to? And then watch the conversation shift. I promise you, there's about to be an explosion. See, Charles has been talking about this stuff for years, right? Like, whatever. But, it's just some dude with, nappy hair and gold teeth and looks like he yells a lot, right? You know what I'm saying? But now there's about to be an outfit that's going to come out first. You ain't even going to see the white people around them, right? And then they're going to come, you're going to start talking. Then you're going to be like, oh, all the support. They've been planning this, man. This is a rollout. This is in hip hop world, it's what they call a rollout, meaning my album's about to drop. I got to put the street single out there. Then I got to put the radio single out there. And then all the support comes, payola comes and all that. You're about to see political and academic payola come on out the woodworks, because they got to use a black face to quench this whole thing around, teaching kids the truth in schools. I mean, listen, bro, I talked about this on A Black Hands last night, and I'm also just having a proud uncle moment, man. My brother and me grew up in such crazy times, and I don't really get a lot of personal, but I tend to give you more shit for some reason on your show. But my uncle, who's like my favorite person, flawed dude, but my favorite person, he had a stroke. And I just been kind of going and just kind of off, you know what I mean? And my brother was like, nah, man, we're going to Vegas, right? So I met him in Vegas. And my brother's a war hero, man. 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. And he was just like, really, like, we were just talking and vibing and talking about his son. And then he just was reflecting like, man, I done worked this hard to get out these streets and to do this. And I raised this kid, man, that had all these, I don't be thinking this kid be listening, but he got these colleges in front of him. He got my military service. He got all this stuff. And he looked at all these pieces, and he looked at our family and the legacy that I'm building, man. And he made a choice. Like, I don't even care what choice it was, but dude was crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, we like having cigars and like, he just like crying but that's fucking agency. He didn't do it out of scarcity. He didn't do it because he felt like he had to. He didn't do it because he been running from the stuff me and my brother been running from or having to deal with, or he ain't got 30 friends that ain't here no more. And that's what it is, man. Are we building kids that can take information and think for themselves while also thinking about their family and their community and what's best for them? Most people build these tools so they can control. I had a staff person, and it took me back to this, Chris, and sorry for taking it up, but we got to connect stories to this so it can really land on people. We had this young person at my job. I love this kid, man, but he was like in the streets heavy. And one of his friends would just drag him to the program, right? Dragging. And then he just started coming. And he had a little brother. And he started getting his grades up, right? Because he know his brother's looking at him. We got his grades turned around. This brother got accepted into a whole bunch of colleges. And he said, you know what? I want to go to the Marines. And then my staff was trying to talk him out of it. My staff were trying to tell him that's wrong, right? And it's like, nah, man, our job is not to direct and tell people what they can and cannot do. That makes us just as evil as any other entity in the world. This young man knows that he wants a certain type of discipline. And this young man that knows that his brother is looking at him, and this is what he is choosing for his life, his family, his legacy. I don't have to like it. This isn't about control. You said this last night, like sometimes funders are asking, well, what if they turn on you? I'm not building, I'm not building drones. I'm not building lemmings. Remember that game, Lemmings, that computer game? And want to go off the cliff, they all just go off. We want independent thinkers, but that are thinking about the community as a whole, and they're going to make some decisions that you might not like. That's agency. That's free thinking. So, these people are about to come out, man. And only reason I'm saying it because something that I love dearly in a term that I use, I refuse to let it get bastardized and turned into like a pick-me, and it's just not. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm still trying to reach that level of agency myself. My story is not the agentic story. Mm-hmm. I am somewhat the John Henry story, just like those people are. And I'm showing you the trappings, right? I'm showing you the moment in those books where they fought so hard to get to this place, but damn, they about to lose their wife. Motherfucker got to go to therapy. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't know, you know what I'm saying? We still so much in it. So that's what it means to raise. My nephew is a free Black kid, and I'm so proud of him.
This is going to sound unfair, but I'm going to say it anyways because that's what I do.
Well, life is unfair. Go ahead.
Life is unfair, but even within our field of advocacy, I look around and I see lots of successful Black men, for instance, because we talk about Black men often because we're Black men, right? I'm beige, but we Black men, right? So as a beige American, I would just say I look around and I see lots of my own people who I actually have respect for as being successful. They took a path I didn't take. They went straight to college after high school. I had to come back to that later. They got what they needed. They dress well. They show up to all the right functions or same meetings. They cross their legs when they sit. They they have nice pens they write with. They ha ha ha. They know the right joke to tell at the right moment, and they got the thing mastered. So by all appearances, they're successful, right? At the same time, when I think about it, there's a lack of agency in some of them too, because they know within the constrictions of the grants that they get and the rooms that they sit in and whatnot, there's some stuff that they're not going to say or do, or to be fully actualized, because they know it comes with consequences. So the conservative version of what we should be teaching young people about agency can make you a golden handcuff slave. It still can put you in a position where you have all the trap. Like, for instance, like, we talk, you talk more than I do because you're a sports person, right? For instance, but there's a way in which you can be LeBron rich. And there's another way in which you could lose your contract rich.
And it's
like
over.
You about to lose your job, right? But before that day, you had jet skis, you had a house in Texas and a house in New York. You had the wife, the cars and whatnot, and you say something or do something, you're not LeBron rich yet. You just like normal. And people be like, you were a millionaire in the game. Blah, blah, blah. How could it go wrong for you just from saying some stuff or whatnot? Because you had agency. You practiced every day. You got great at what you do. You could win. You could hit points. You could do everything you needed to do. You got the benefits from it. Everybody considered you a success, and you still weren't free.
Well,
you still didn't have the agency.
Now you're going into like financial agency, right? And basically, this is why they say billionaires have 6 or 7 streams of income, right? You can have a bunch of amazing income, but if it's just one stream, then you are at the mercy of said stream. That means that if you blow your knee out at the end of that contract, it's a wrap. But when you talk about LeBron, who has a liberatory type of wealth, right, where he can walk away from things, or he can say, you know what, I'm gonna take a smaller contract because I got Space Jam coming out and I got endorsements. I have things that's gonna pay for my kids in the future. Like, it allows him to say no. Like, if anytime you at a table and you can't say no, you damn near incarcerated, fam. That's a mental type of incarceration. And again, is your advocacy group building for people to be independent and independently wealthy of whatever your agenda is? Or are you just building them to be, drones in your army? And listen, man, we know what pawns do, bro. That we sacrifice pawns. You push them out there. Every now and then a pawn makes it to the other side of the board and becomes a queen, man. But that usually ain't the case, because they're stunted in their mobility. But the queen can go anywhere they want. And so, I just think what you're saying.
Well, stick with that for a second. Yeah. Now we're on chess references, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that's how I think.
Yeah. We're on chess references, which I love because I love chess. A pawn can make it, if a pawn can make it without dying to the other side of the board in chess, that pawn can transform into a queen. And the queen in chess is the most mobile figure in the entire game, can move anywhere diagonally, forward, couple of stops, wherever you could go, and can take anybody, like just kill you, whatever on the board. So being a pawn, you can have agency to get 2 steps ahead, and then 1, and then 2, and then 1. But chances are you're going to die before you get to that other side of the board, because that's the way the game is played. So it's the rare exception that pawn becomes the most powerful player on the board. But when they do, it's glorious, right? That to me in a nutshell are the 2 different types of agency. One type of agency is striving for you to keep striving for that other side of the board, but you're never going to get there because you're limited by the concept that people are putting out for you. The John Henry concept. Just work hard, don't work for self, don't do it for the rest of your tribe and the other people behind you, the other pieces on the board or whatnot. And the other one is like, I'm trying to get to LeBron money, where I can lift up entire communities.
And just to stay there, Chris, I think you tapping on something, and I don't even think you realize what you tapped on. Nobody mourns a fucking pawn.
They be giving the pawns up.
When you lose the rook, you like, damn, I lost my rook, I lost my knight, I lost my bishop, I lost my queen. But when you lose a pawn, you like, damn, he almost made it to the end of the board. And what I'm telling you, people, these new neoconservative black folks that feel like they about to get ahead and do that thing and do whatever they need to do, right? When they will sacrifice you, and they're gonna be like, that pawn almost made it. Well, we got 7 more. So I just want to understand that, right? And listen, some pawns do make it to the end of the board, man. Listen, this isn't about, we're talking about being on code. Agentic isn't like a line that you cross and a place that you arrive. It's actions, it's things. So even if you took some missteps, right? Like, I like to believe that you can come back. I like to believe that you can work on some things, you know what I'm saying? And be better. Like, we all trying to be better. We're all trying to get to where we need to get to. And again, when we talk about, like you just said about fairness, life is not fair. We live in a racist system. We also, listen, this is what conservatives gonna say. You live in America, you got a lot of opportunity. You are absolutely right, man. And I do love that about where I live. I like, multiple things can be true. See, they like to say stuff like we can only do one thing or think one thing at a time. And it's still not okay that you racist as hell the way that you are. It's still not okay that I can tell how much money somebody's gonna make based off their zip code within like an 85% level of accuracy. You know what I mean? Just because I can work through and I've done this to create, that's not just necessary. That's for me, but it's also somebody else is going to live a different type of life. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just don't want this turn to be hijacked because it doesn't belong to a party. It doesn't belong to a people. It doesn't belong to a race, right? What it belongs to is this collective struggle that I think that we're thinking about. And are you teaching kids to be critical thinkers? Are you teaching kids to say, look, I'm not going to get everything from this school, but this is what I need from it. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to keep pushing this school to be better. But where are my social ties? What's my intergenerational relationships? What are the organizations that I'm tied to? What needs to happen? Like, what is my duty? What is my sense of duty? And when I say, and thank you for putting up that piece by Ms. Johnson, man, because I've lost a lot of pawns, man. I've lost a lot of pawns, man. Nobody more in the pawns but the fucking pawns. And I just feel like there's about to be some black folks
too. That should be another piece.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is a piece. Nobody mourns a pawn. That actually is deep and should be drilled down on, because that's real.
Mm-hmm.
That's real. So like, we done went all over like sports.
I know. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, this is good, because like, this is the thing that the Black oral tradition of storytelling has done forever, is it makes things real for people by framing it within stories that make sense. Mm-hmm. Like, we understand games. We understand how a game works. The system that we are putting kids into, young people into, is a game, right? So if I were to drop into Oakland and you were to say, Chris, I want you to come talk to, Baba Chris at the Oakland Unified has this group of kids that are going to meet on Saturday. They're going to talk about a few things. Can you come in and talk about it or whatnot? I would struggle to know the context necessarily of Oakland, like what they're going to be, like what's the best game philosophy to tell them. I could tell them some global stuff, some more global or national or whatever. But I would hope that there was somebody locally saying, this is the way the game is played in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way that developers, housing developers work. This is the way your politics work. This is the way your city works. And if you're going to make it, here are the stats on you. Here are your stats in this city and blah, blah, blah. Because that's different there than it is in Kansas City, which is different than what it is in Spokane, Washington, which is different. So I would hope that it's just about, excuse me, game. Right. I hope agency is just about game. Like, the reason that I want you to be agentic is because you don't realize it, but you're in somebody else's game right now, and you can win if you want to, but not without knowing what the game is.
And you know what, Chris, just in the spirit of this episode and us going all over the place, let's go back to sports. There's a reason why on a football team, look, Tampa Bay just came and won with Tom Brady, right? They all have one singular mission. There's a duty that they all have. But guess what else, Chris? There's an offensive huddle and a defensive huddle. And within that, linemen talk to linemen, running backs talk to running backs, quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has a role, and there's a larger code that you have to be on. And I think that that's the piece that you just talked about, Chris. We have this larger context. It's the game, right? They're trying to get to the Super Bowl. But like, maybe you play on defense. What is happening in this city that you need to know so you understand how this rolls out so I can help you? You know, but as I'm teaching agentic young people, Chris, I always, you know, you give people multiple messages. When I tell educators, yo, you got to create lesson plans that matter. You got to be good at executing them and make sure that your young people are learning. And what I tell young people is, you're responsible for your learning. Like, yo, you got to take you. If this man coming to talk to you, everything might not hit you. Everything might not hit you, but you got to take the stuff that works for you and plant the rest of it. Some of that stuff comes up later. Chris, I got some, it's good criticism, but I got some criticism. People are just worried. They're like, you're doing so many things, right? But guess what? So I'm writing a book, and it's about first generation Black college kids. And they're like, why are you doing that? You got so much other stuff going, blah, 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 right? And I'm not charging for it. That's the other thing. People are like, what the hell are you doing? Well, I went to college, man. I was the first in my family, and I had no information, and I owe 6 figures today. You don't think it's a sense of duty for me that's to help prepare these other Black kids that I'm working with, that I know, that I love, and say, this is the information I did not have that I wish I did. It's so simple for me. I have a whole framework that I think through. I put things through what I call an agentic funnel. What is my duty? So it might be doing too much, but if ain't nobody else doing it, then it got to be done.
Now, what is an agentic funnel? What's an agentic funnel?
Oh man, the agentic funnel here.
Let's talk about it.
Put my whiteboard.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yes, let's talk about it.
All right,
let's talk about it.
Look, man.
Agentic funnel. See, this is what happens. Like people start using stuff and words and models and stuff. Now you got my attention.
I'm agentic for real. All right. So look, man, you can't really see it, but I'll walk you through it.
Yeah.
In the funnel goes my experiences. Love, my hopes, my anger, my failures, the deaths, the losses, plans, my religion, my community, right? All these things go into a funnel, and then how I make decisions. So I went to college, and I did not have any help. I was by myself. Wouldn't I be wrong, borderline evil, if I didn't give that up to other people? So what comes out of that is books, yo. Like, let me actually build the mentor in this book that I needed, that I didn't have. That's my duty, because I own knowledge in that space. That's it, right? Or I grew up homeless. I lived in shelters. I could have used money, man. All that stuff comes out. Well, yo, I'm going to build a fund for my community. And guess what? I gave $100,000 away in my neighborhood.
Wow.
If I never thought about that. And then what people say is, instead of saying, yo, Charles, that's amazing, and like, damn, you really are on code and trying to live out this duty, they say, well, I think you're doing too much. You should pick one thing and just work on that. But I don't live a one thing life. I got people that's dealing with drug addiction, and I got other people that's trying to get their kids into college, and I got other people that's trying not to get murdered in the streets, and I got other friends that run organizations that's trying to raise money. We just did a show last night that just talked about how little money we get. So these are my duties until I got somebody else that's working with me or on it. You know what I'm saying? And maybe I'm on my John Henry grind. I'm trying not to be. That's why I pay a lot of money for a therapist. So all I'm saying is, but this is how I think about things. This is how I make decisions. So anyway, I'm an educator for real, man. I got whiteboards and shit everywhere.
So what goes into the funnel again?
Huh?
Say what goes into the funnel again?
So what goes into it is all my experiences, right? It's living in shit. I've seen people shot in front of me, right? Like I have friends, like me and my brother was yesterday at the cigar lounge. We was just like, yo, like we really got just as many friends that have been killed that are still alive. Like we really just do,
wow.
right? It goes in. What do I love? What places do I love? You see Oakland, Chicago, and Kentucky. These are places that I grew up in. What am I? I've given some back to Oakland. I've given some back to Chicago. Okay, what's my plan for Kentucky, right? Anger, man. I'm an angry kid. I've been so driven by anger in times because it's all I had. Listen, we are emotional gumbo just as much as we were with food, right? You use what you got. That anger got me up every morning and like go out and do things and work super hard, right? It's easy for me to sit in a bar and write a book because I'd rather be sitting here and doing it than in the damn shelter, and I can still smell that shelter. You know, Chris, when I say I can smell the shelter, I learned how to clean needles in the 90s living at the Salvation Army because of the AIDS epidemic, and they didn't want junkies to spread AIDS. I lived that. You know what I'm saying? So it's the anger. It's my losses. I love losing, man. I mean, I hate it in the moment, but I get a lesson from it, right? And then so all these things go. And then my religion. I am Christian. I try to be a better one. I'm kind of a heathen. I'm working on it. But you know what I'm saying? But what are those principles?
Yeah.
What are those principles, right? That like lead to this and lead to something bigger. So again, you just got a really deep look into my psyche and my psychology, and that's a bit more personal than I normally get. But that's what goes.
No,
into
I mean,
my
I love
process.
this model though. So I love this model of like, first of all, an agentic funnel. I love how you, if you link this up, your agentic funnel idea with your energy converters idea,
Absolutely.
and I'm gonna put energy converters up right here. So like some things are clicking for me even as we talk right now. So you have all these experiences, these moments in time. I also have been working on a project I'm going to hip you to soon called Radical Edicology.
Oh,
and
I like that.
In Radical Edicology, it's how you create a personal knowledge management system that houses all of your artifacts, your experiences, and helps you create what I call, what Audre Lorde, I should say, calls biomythography, creating your own story out of your own artifacts. But I have a system for how you keep track of all those experiences and all of those pieces of your life information that can be used to create your own story. So we will come back to that because I want to stick with this for a second.
I love it.
The agentic funnel, all of those moments, activities, experiences, negative and positive, all the sum total of all that has ever been told to you about yourself and that you've seen and that you've heard, all of the shit that you have sucked up, right, in your lifetime or whatnot. And then you add energy converters, which I have up, was one of the things that you and I talked about the first night that we met, you know, and I didn't get it like I get it now. You know, like there are places in the world where people are taking straight up landfill trash and creating energy out of it, right? Like, so when you talk about the stuff that's going in your agentic funnel, it could be positive, negative, it could be trash going in, but what your body does with it, purifies it. Either converts it into fuel, or lets it just collect and stack up, and then you just become a stinky human. Right, because you walking around like a straight up landfill. So you got two different people who had the exact same experiences going into their agentic funnel, and one becomes a landfill, right? And we got a lot of landfill people in this world. We got to help them. And then you have other people who all of that negative, the Curtis Jacksons of the world, the I was shot 9 times and left for dead in the street, and you know my mama was hooked on stuff and blah blah, and now, you know, like I benefited from owning vitamin water and like whatever. That's converting some energy. Right? Yeah,
man.
Like that's energy converting.
And I love when they give you the insight, and that's why I gave the insight to your crowd, right? Because you got to understand how it ticks, because it shows up. Now leave it with both of us, right? Because I want to feel like I'm talking to you, but it shows up in a way that can look selfish, or it can look disorganized if you don't know what's going on in my head. So we've been having stuff with the CRT stuff, and in my agentic funnel, I'm like, I don't care about these people, like, you know what I mean? And I know that that's frustrating to my team, but it's like, it feels dismissive, but I'm like, wait, I'm on code on what I'm trying to do. But then it's like, look, man, one, this will impact my people, but I had to figure out the way to connect it. You know what I'm saying? So I did that. I made that talk where I broke it down for my community. That don't know who these people are writing these think pieces or these think tanks or whatever, right? And it's also like, yo, part of me being on code is I have to, for this band of brothers of 8 Black Hands, We ain't gotta be best friends all the time, and we actually do fight and argue. That's what makes us who we are. But we gotta know that each other has each other's back. So how am I showing up in this piece? Agentic is not a line that you cross. It is actions every single day. But you know, I didn't have time to break that down and explain that to y'all in the moment, right? It just sounded like Charles being an asshole because I don't care about this white dude that wrote this shit. It don't matter to me, right? But when I run it through my agentic funnel, it's like, yo, there's other things that I need to be doing. And Chris, it's not your fault that you didn't understand energy converters as well when we first met. I just don't articulate it well. And every time I sit down to try to write about it and talk about it, it's just something else I could go do that actually is doing it, right? So I just gotta.
This is the work, though. Like in a lot of ways, like what you just did with the agentic funnel, and then we talk about energy converters or whatnot. These create mental models that can be reusable, and if we are helping young people with mental models that are reusable, that is part of implanting in them like an operating system. Let's consider each child like a brand new MacBook. Here's the thing about MacBooks, or you know, listen, I'm trying to get off the Apple train, so I don't want to be an Apple anymore. I know you're not. I'm trying not to be an Apple anymore. I'm not going to be an Apple. They didn't took too much of my money, and they got me frustrated.
Give me more of the ecosystem. Go ahead.
You can have all that ecosystem, whatever. But this is what I would say. Let's just say a laptop, period. What everybody does with a laptop when they first get it is different. There's some core apps that you need to put on your app that's going to be different for your life and your work than mine. Right. But if we are telling kids that, like, if we're giving kids a laptop with no app store whatsoever, we're not giving them the mental models, the apps that are going to help them process quickly, be productive, and get through life quickly. Right. So the agentic funnel is an app to me. It's a mental app. And it begs the question for me, which other mental apps are we going to give our kids to download onto their device so that they, when they encounter the world as it is, they succeed? Energy converters. You can have the same set of experiences. You could both be in a shelter, and one of y'all can end up owning half of Oakland, and the other one of you can end up being in jail. What happened between the two of those things? Now, neither, I'm going to say, are your fault. Right. You know, like, because God gives you advantages and good luck sometimes. So don't think you did it all. You had some blessings in your life. Absolutely. And some other people had some curses, but I love it because the energy converter model, now when I leave here today, I'm going to be thinking to myself about how we burn fuel differently, how we have the same negative situations, but we burn them differently. We're just built differently to burn them. And the difference to me might be this thing that so we didn't went from sports to chess, and now we ended up on apps, brother. Because I just want to make sure we're downloading the right apps into our children.
I mean, brother, I love this, man. And I'll come back and we can go even more places, man. I think you're absolutely right. And inside that funnel, you know, which I need to highlight, right, is the duty building process is inside the funnel. Therapy is inside the funnel. And listen, I'm still not healed, right? I'm still not fully there. Like, you know, it's so funny. Again, Chris, I'm just giving up all this personal stuff, but it's because you my man and this your show, and I want to feel special. I want them to feel like they get something different here than they do on A Black Hands with us. But I'm gonna go deeper into my mindset, right? Like, remember when you my job, this is what you would say, Chris. My job is to make these people's lives difficult. Like, if you're gonna attack these amazing Black educators, they need some cover, right? And I'm like, yeah, Chris, I feel you. You and I have a different temperament though, because I'm not just gonna go back and forth, right? Like, at some point, I'm gonna be like, all right, but what you trying to hurt me? You trying to hurt my people? I take it as a real slight. And I might do something to you because of where I come from. You know what I mean? Like, violence is not a good thing. I actually was, like I said, a pretty square guy, but I lived in this environment where there is a certain code of things, and disrespect means different things to different people. And so I just wanted to, like, you know, I wanted to give people a little bit of my psychology. I'm still trying to evolve. I'm still trying to heal. I'm still trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't made space for love in my life like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm on code. I'm working on something. Now, that don't mean I'm right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been blessed to date some amazing people. You know what I'm saying? But it got in the way of the thing that I haven't accomplished yet. You know what I'm saying? And that's things that I have to work out and work on. So I just wanted to, you know, so hopefully the intimacy of this, you always get an intimate ass conversation when I come on your show, man. I'm gonna just build a therapy show, but I just need, it's important.
I guess I'm gonna be like the Mopra. I'm gonna be the male Oprah. so y'all just gonna call me Mopra.
But this is what it means to be me. This is what it means to actually struggle with the code. This is what it means to like think about it. And I'm gonna say this, and I want to be very clear. The other side, the people that's about to try to flip this, you can't fucking have it. I will fight for it with tooth and nail. I will fight you. I will fight you proverbially, and I will fight you actually if you try to poison my people with this stuff, because you want to be the John Henry in these people's eyes, and they don't care about you, but I care about you, brother. You know what I'm saying? We can actually kind of find a space to come back from. That's why I can work. I'm on code, so I don't have to be in love or like every single person I work with. This is what I want. This is what I need because it's a part of my agentic code. We don't have to agree on that stuff. Once we hit the line, you go your way, I go mine. Like, I don't care what you like. I don't care who you date. I don't care what you think in your house, to be real with you. Do you help me with this thing I'm trying to get? Cool. Let's work together into that. And then when it's over, it's over. Like, I'm not surprised when people that we might have worked with come out and look racist as hell. Like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. Like, it makes sense. And I'll be looking, this is where we be getting into it. I'll be looking at you, I'll be like, what did you expect from these people? Like, I don't like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is, but I'm a part of that tradition of like Rainbow Coalition or whatever, right? Where it's like, yo, me and these white supremacists ain't about to be friends. We just saying that your ass is poor and we poor. Let's work together to get rid of these oppressive motherfuckers, and then we can work on our stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't gotta date your daughter, fam. You know, so all I'm saying is like, you to this other side that's about to come, brown people, the brown faces they put in front, the black faces they put in front, and make you think that you the one that like came up with this stuff or whatever. And you might have came up with something pure and they got their tentacles in it and they've like injected their own ink into it. You can't have it. You can't have it. But here's what they want to do, bro. This is another form of I want to say buck breaking because that's a little different, but of those fights, of those Mandingo fights. They're gonna put you out there, pawn, to meet me in the middle of the chessboard so we can fight it out and hopefully we kill each other. And they be like, oh, they both made it. Oh well.
You know what though? I mean, that's like going back to that the chess metaphor. And people watching this and listening, this is more fun than your straightforward linear nonsense conversations. I don't care if you don't like it. No, I do care. Right. I do care. I do care. You know, let me take that back. Please,
well, hopefully they get some jewels out of it.
Please share the show. Share the show. The chess metaphor, like these two versions of agency that are going to be presented to the world. One wants you to be a queen or king. The other one wants you to be a pawn. And they are both going to be speaking similar language. But what you need to have is what Charles said in the very beginning of this conversation is there's got to be discernment within agency. You can't be a damn fool and super agentic in your ignorance, like walking around like, I don't know what's going on with the world, but I'm just going to work hard. I'm John Henry. Like if this is the discernment you need, listen very closely to what people are telling you. If one of them leaves you being a king or queen of your own destiny and your own life, and not just for you, but for your entire side of the chessboard, your other people, your rook, your castle, your bishops, everybody else, then that's the right version of agency. If you listen very closely and you hear agency on the other side that keeps you a pawn, that doesn't have all your side of the board winning, your rook, your bishops, your knights, all that type of stuff, then that's how you should differentiate between, that's what your ears should be listening for. As you listen at this agency talk, you should be listening for those two outcomes. Because the words are going to sound very similar, but the outcomes are going to be very different, right? So I want to show you one outcome. Here we are at the end of the show. I want to show you one outcome. This is agency. Dr. Charles Cole merch shop. Someone earlier in the show mentioned they love the shirt. So this is where you can get the shirt. I put the link into the comments. You can go to Dr. Cole's website.
Thank you, brother.
And get yourself one of my love language. My love language is self-determination, or there's the agency line. I think you added a mug. to it?
Oh, yes, we have. If you scroll down, the mug is down there too. But
Is it down there? All right. Nope.
Yes.
There we go. See, yep. See, look at it, doing big things. This is agency.
But guess what though? I've also taught over 50 kids how to build and do this on their own as well. So there's a bunch of kids that have their own at 15 years old, running their own shops and they building their own merch and those doodles that they had or those ideas, right? Like I don't need to hold and hoard this stuff. Like I just learned how to do it. So I just taught somebody else how to do it.
And that's the whole goal. The whole goal for all the work that we do, is it for you? Or is it for you and, meaning the and your people? And the biggest joy of the work that I do, number one, is that at one point in my life, it didn't look like I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do with my life. It looked like I was going to be working nonsensical jobs for the rest of my life. And I've said this multiple times. I've had over 40 jobs in my life. Some different parts of my life, I had 2 or 3. Most of that was restaurant work, catering, retail, public service, just very, very kind of not physically or mentally rewarding work in my life. And that looked like that could be what it was going to be forever. But when I started getting into things that allowed me to help other people, and the main goal was serving our people, like helping us achieve things in life or whatnot, it felt rewarding every day. Doesn't feel like work at all. But the greatest gift of that isn't for me. The greatest gift of that is seeing other people around me ascend. So just like you said, you built this out and this shop to sell these goods that get a real message out in the world. But then you taught other young people how to do the exact same thing. That's what this is about. Replicate, give our kids the apps, the applications to put on their hard drive that will help them rework the type of work that you've done or whatever. So, bro, I appreciate you. So,
and I know we close, and I'll just say this is how this came about, though, man. I learned that my story was valuable when I lived in a shelter in San Francisco, and Steve Young had to come to the shelter. And it was right after they won the Super Bowl, and they told them my story about how I got to that shelter. And then I was on the front page of the newspaper, and the shelter got all this money and all this stuff, and I ain't get nothing. And at that moment, as a child, I was like, oh, my story is valuable. So I just teach young people how to own their own story. And if there's anything to be gained from your pain, you should be gaining from it. It should be you, not somebody else. But that happened, like that's the agentic funnel. I could look at that. Oh, I don't even like the 49ers, right? But Steve Young was a cool cat. I could look at that and leave it there. I can look at that and feel used, or I could look at that as like, oh, that was something that opened my eyes to what can actually be. And then you start moving forward. But that's how all this partially came to be about.
I love it.
It's my story. If anybody eating off of it, it's going to be me and my family.
And should own it. And we come back to this.
I know. Sorry, I know. I always take you over.
The thing I told you about earlier, the biomythography. If people look into Audre Lorde's concept of biomythography, it actually is about writing your own story before the world does it for you. It's about creating your own myths and your own mythologies to replace the ones that old people put in your head before you were able to intellectually defend yourself. So in your childhood, people put some tapes in your head that are not productive for you right now and aren't helping you burn that fuel the right way for energy, but are making you a landfill. And I love that Audre, in connection with these other things that we are talking about, we're going to link it all together, brother. We're going to link together the agentic funnel, the energy converting, the process of even converting trash into fuel, and then the radical ecology, where you have a personal knowledge management system that helps you continually tell your own story on your own terms before somebody else does it for you, so that you can define the world that you want to define it as or whatnot. And now you are an agentic human being for yourself and for your people, not somebody else's version of agency or what you should be or how you should be working. So this is the anti-John Henry speech.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
All right. Dr. Charles Cole, brother, appreciate you for being back on again, man.
New book is coming out soon. Stop Hustling Backwards. It's a guide for first generation Black boys that's going off to college. All the shit I wish I had known that I didn't. So that'll be coming out soon, and it will be completely free.
What's it called again?
Stop Hustling Backwards.
Yeah. Oh, wow. All right. So you got like several in here today too, by the way. You got a couple of blog posts you got to read.
I know. I got to write. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. No, Nobody Mourns Upon That's got to be a blog post or something. So
Have
right,
your
y'all.
people hit my people, which is me, and let's make it happen. We'll get it all up,
right.
and it'll be on Bright Beam first.
See, this is what people do. Have your people call my people.
Me, I'm my people. So we will get up on Bright Beam, brother. Let's tell these stories. You know, I'm at the place where I can accept some help now. So let's do it.
All right, Diddy. Yo, people, my people. Everybody listening and watching, thank you for being here with us on a Monday. Any day that we can spend breakfast time and brunch time together to kind of just form community around ideas and ideas for our children, for making our young people actually live up to their God-given promise. That's a good day. So thank you all for joining us again today. Be back tomorrow. Have a very special guest tomorrow. In my mind, very, very special guest. I think you're going to enjoy it and love it. So be back here again, 9 a.m. tomorrow, and we will see you then. Appreciate you as always.